It's Cheugy. I stream all kinds of magic, stuff and junk on both Twitch and YouTube, and I also have friends. Shocking, I know. The audacity of me admitting I have friends. Ugh. These friends show up to stream sometimes, and they say, I don't know magic, but I'm gonna hang. And I'm like, I don't understand you. Are you okay? Why would you do this to yourself? Recently, one of those friends asked me to teach them how to play magic. I did not have the heart to tell them, run away while you can. It's just too much for your tiny brain to comprehend. No. Instead, I said, go to your local game store, your LGS, and pick up 2 Jumpstart booster packs, and I will teach you how to play on stream. Because after all, the best time to learn how to play Magic the Gathering is yesterday, but the second best time is today. It's never too late to start playing Magic. So I'm gonna give you people. This video is for folks who do not know how to play Magic. So if you know how to play Magic, leave, get out of here, go on, send this to a loved one or someone you hate, I guess, that you want to get involved in Magic. Your nemesis, I guess. Send it to them, because I'm gonna give the lowest common denominator view of how to play Magic the Gathering. This will be a quick and dirty version. I'm not gonna give you enough to get overwhelmed. I'm gonna give you enough to get dangerous, okay? So there's probably gonna be a lot of, actually, that interaction is... No, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. I'm giving you what I wish I had when I started playing Magic, which is just the shit you need to know to get started. You'll learn the rest as you go, but for now, my goal is to give you enough to be a little bit dangerous. So, I mentioned Jumpstart a little earlier. You might have said, what is Jumpstart, Cheugs? Cheugs, what is Jumpstart? Simply put, Jumpstart is the best way to learn how to play Magic in paper. Do not let your friends trick you into playing Commander. Your tiny brain cannot handle it. You will be overwhelmed. You may never play again. You may never be friends with those people again. Commander brings out a very wild side of people, and I don't think you're ready to see it. Instead, I recommend picking up some Jumpstart booster packs. Each booster pack has a theme, so it might be Goblin themed. You don't know what you're gonna get. You open it up. You get a friend for it. So you get 2 packs and you shuffle those 2 packs up, and that is your deck. It has all the lands you need. It has all of the cards that you need to play. So do that. Go get some Jumpstart. If you don't want to play in paper, I recommend downloading Magic the Gathering Arena. There is a great tutorial that will actually get you started with the mechanics in a very cool and interesting and easy to understand way. Hell, do them both. Do them both. And if you want to see how it went with that friend of mine, what you can do is you can come over to my YouTube, Cheugy MTG, and in the playlist, I have Jumpstart 1v1. You're going to look for the one that says Learning to Play Magic. There might be more. By the time you watch this video, I might have taught 1 million people how to play Magic. Oh no, no, that is not my cross to bear. That is not my burden, okay? That is not my burden. Instead, just look for the one with Maka, and you can see how it went. Spoiler alert, he's addicted to Magic now. He's literally at his LGS buying all of the stuff. Because it's just that easy, folks. It is, once you get the hang of it, we spent maybe 5 hours together getting the hang of it. It's a pretty fun game. So don't be overwhelmed. Don't let that stop you from having a good time. All right, preamble done. Ready? Are you ready? Awesome. Simply put, there are just 2 kinds of cards in Magic. 2 kinds of cards. We have spells and we have lands, and that's it. That's all you need to know. 2 types of cards in Magic. It's gonna help you long-term to think of it that way. Spells and lands. There are, however, upwards of 25,000 unique cards, which is wild. I would never expect you to know even a smallest percentage of it. Trust me when I tell you, I don't know. I think I don't know very many cards, okay? And that's fine. You don't need to memorize all of the cards. All you have to do is understand the simple phrase, reading the card explains the card. It is quite literal. If the card says it can do something, it does that thing. If the card does not say it can do that thing, it cannot do that thing. So it's pretty easy once you get the basic mechanics down, understanding, okay, cool, I don't need to memorize all this stuff. I just have to read the card. And then when you really get the hang of it, people will start throwing in your face that handy little word. Reading the card explains the cards, Chug. Just read the card. Just read. Listen, I struggle reading sometimes, okay? Give me a little bit of a break. All right. 2 types of cards, spells and lands. What is the difference between these? Well, lands get tapped, so they turn sideways to generate mana, and mana can be used to cast a spell. So lands are your resources, spells are the things that you do. That is why it's helpful to think of it as 2 separate things, right? Your lands are your resources, they turn sideways or tap to create mana. That mana is then used to cast spells. There are 5 different colors of lands, and all these colors come in different combinations too. And they each have a kind of a different vibe. So we're going to be dealing a lot with the black mana because it's in the middle of all the colors. / it's my favorite. Spoiler. I like black. I like playing swamps, which are the land associated with black mana generation. But you will find your own vibe. Some people love the color blue. They love playing blue, and they like that as their personality, and I wish you the best of luck if that is you. You're gonna be very lonely. Anyway, lands, tap for mana. Mana can be used to pay for spells, okay? So you cannot play the game without lands, okay? The lands help you play the game. The lands are boring but important. I understand. I feel you. Every time I open a land in a pack, I sigh. I do a big, deep sigh. And that is kind of what you need to know to get started. Let's look at a little bit more. If you stop by my streams or you have friends that play Magic and you've gazed over to see what are they doing, you might have seen something like this. There's a lot going on here. There's a lot going on here. It's hard to make heads or tails of it. What you should take away is that you are going to put a lot of stuff on your play area. We call this the battlefield. And in gameplay, things are going to get really complicated. So it's important that everything has a place and every place has a thing. I guess every place doesn't need a thing. Oh, you know what I'm trying to say. That's where we come to sort of like these zones that I have drawn out. Generally, players use this image behind the zones to play on top of. This is called a playmat. This is by a company called Ultra Pro, and it has an artist called Wizard of Barge. And you can get all kinds of cool playmats to jazz it up. Jazz up your play experience. It is not necessary to play. Okay? You do not need a playmat. You do not need sleeves. You do not need peripherals to enjoy Magic. But know that if you want your personality to shine through, you can get a playmat, you can get a deck box, you can be a real buy hard like I am. You can even buy a playmat with zones on them, which is super handy if you are learning how to play. But let me go over these zones. First and foremost, lands, bottom left. Your lands are going to go down here. It's really important that you keep your lands organized down here because, again, your lands are going to tap to play your spells. Your creatures are going to go above your lands. It is a literal rule. Your creatures have to be in one zone. Your lands have to be in a different zone. Well, creatures have to be up here. And we have this big open space. This is where the rest of your spells are going to go. I don't know that there's like a consensus on where your other spells need to go, but somewhere over here, creatures are here, lands are here, other shit, other stuff here. Then we have your library. These are your unused cards. And your graveyard. These are cards that we've used. So those are essentially the 4 zones that we are going to pay attention to. Let us see some more. Are you ready to see some more? You are. Game setup. All right, so after you shuffle up your cards, you are going to start a game by determining who goes first. Traditionally, we will roll a d20 or 2d6 to see who goes first. Highest roll usually does, but you can decide however you want. You can flip a coin, you can see who can hold their breath the longest, you can do anything that you want to determine who goes first, but that is kind of step 1. After you know who goes first, that is when you draw 7 cards. So this is your opening hand. Step 3 is to assess your opening hand to see if you need a do-over, a redo, a do-over, an oopsie counter. This is what we call a mulligan. It is when you assess your hand to see, can I play the game with this? Do I have enough lands and enough spells that I can play at the right time to actually have a meaningful impact on the game? If the answer is yes, proceed to step 4, which is play. If the answer is no, you're going to do something called a mulligan. Mulligan means that you are going to take those 7 cards, you're going to reshuffle them in your library, and then you're going to draw a fresh 7. If it looks good, then you are going to take 1 card from that 7 and you're going to put it on the bottom of your library. So you unfortunately now have to start the game with 6 cards instead of 7 cards. That is the cost of an oopsie. That is what it means to redo things. There are several other ways to mulligan. Generally, it's about house rules, how people like to mulligan. I like standard, traditional, draw 7, take a lot of time reshuffling those 7 to draw another 7. If you need to mulligan again, what you're going to do is reshuffle all of your cards back in. You're going to draw 7 again. And this time, because this is your second mulligan, you're going to have to put 2 cards on the bottom of your library. So now you're starting at 5. So sometimes you got to do that. Sometimes you got to do that. If you go down to 3 cards, at that point, you just say, you know what? You win. I concede. I'm not doing this. We're not doing this game anymore. So that is game setup. Determine who goes first. Draw 7 and mulligan, so you're going to get your opening hand, and then you're going to start playing. Now, playing is interesting. We take turns. I have a turn, you have a turn, I have a turn, you have a turn. We go back and forth. In our turns, we move linearly. Linearly? That's a word. I think I'm saying it too slowly for it to be comprehensible. Oh my God. I'm losing it. I've lost the plot. Breathe. Okay. Turns and phases. During your turn, you move through these phases, starting at 1, going to 2, going to 3, 4, and 5. You have to move from left to right. You cannot go back a step. However, you can skip steps if you have nothing to do in them. In your beginning phase, we utter the incantation, untap, upkeep, draw. You have to do these items in order. So to untap, what you're doing is you're resetting your board state. So you're like starting over, you're getting everything prepped. In upkeep, you're looking around to see, does anything need to happen? All right, I think I'm ready. Everything's looking good. Is there anything that needs to happen before I actually get going? Chances are the answer is no. You're looking for things on your cards that say at the beginning of your upkeep. If it looks like nothing needs to happen, then you can draw a card and move to your main phase 1 or first main phase. In your main phases, you can play lands and cast spells. You can only play 1 land for your whole turn, but you get to choose if you do that in your first main phase or your second main phase. So in your first main phase, you can play lands and cast spells before moving to combat. In combat, you can attack, block, and deal damage. The whole point of the game is to get your opponent down to 0 life. And we do that with our spells. The spells can attack If our opponent has a response or something that they would like to do to stop us from absolutely pulverizing them, they can do that. And then we also then move to damage. After combat is resolved, after we're done with that phase, we're gonna move to our second main phase, at which point we can play a land if we haven't played a land yet, and we can also cast any additional spells that we want. At the end, we're going to heal, so anything that took damage that is not us personally, not our life total, but anything else on the board is gonna heal back up. So it's like we're starting over. We're getting a new lease on life. We're taking a short rest if you play D&D. We got, well, I guess we don't get like a D4 hit points. We just get all of them. We're taking a long rest. I don't know, man. I don't know. And then we're passing the turn. All right. Let's see it in action. So we start at the very beginning, which is a very good place to start. If it is the first turn of the game, you do not draw. That first turn, that player who starts doesn't draw because it's sort of like too much of an advantage if they get to draw. So every turn but the first player's first turn of the game. We start by drawing. It's important to note you cannot have more than 7 cards in hand at your end step, otherwise you'll have to discard them. You can never have more than 7 cards in hand, so it's a good idea to play lands and cast spells, right? Because we don't want to put our stuff in the graveyard. We don't want to have to lose it, right? So I've drawn a card, I'm at 8. I'm gonna go to my first main phase and I'm gonna play a land. Very cool. Next, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to tap that land to generate a black mana. I'm gonna use that black mana to play a spell. That's something I had in my hand, so I got to play him. And now he's here, he's on the battlefield, very cool. The unfortunate thing is the first time that card comes onto the battlefield, it's got something called Summoning Sickness. It cannot attack until its next turn. So the turn it came down, it cannot attack. This is one of those rules that by default, everything is summoning sick. So there will be no rules text on the cards that say this creature has summoning sickness. It's just assumed. So this is one of those things that you will have to memorize, Summoning Sickness. Just like you have to remember, ooh, I can't have more than 7 cards in hand, or ooh, I have to start by untapping, going to upkeep, and then drawing. This is the next bit of information you need to understand is Summoning Sickness. He cannot attack, but he can block. He can block, so he could still help you. So it is still a good idea to play him. But because he cannot attack, we go to combat. We can't do anything. So we go to the second main phase. We have no mana. We've already played our land per turn. So we actually go right to our end step. So this turn, we really only got to go to our beginning phase and then our main phase. And then we were done. All right, turn 2. We're gonna start by beginning. We untap. So we're gonna reset everything on our board and we're going to draw a card after we check around and make sure that we don't have any upkeep things. Then my first main phase, I'm gonna play a land. Hey, look at that, I have an island now. I have a swamp and I have an island, very cool. I can decide to play something in my hand, but actually I'm gonna go to combat instead. I'm gonna say, hey guy, you turn sideways and you're gonna attack my opponent. Because again, the goal is to get an opponent down to 0. It's really hard to do that if you don't attack. So be aggressive, be aggressive. Say it with me. Say it with you. With you, with me. There are advantages to attacking, especially if our opponent doesn't have anything on our board. It's a good idea to hit them. If our opponent does have stuff on their board that would either kill us, our spell, or maybe like be a real problem for us, that's when we would hold it back. But for now, let's pretend our opponent doesn't have anything. We're early in the game, so it's a good idea to attack. So we move to combat. They don't have anything, so they can't block. We go to damage, and they're gonna take some damage. Now, I'm gonna go to my second main phase. I've got 2 mana. Is there anything I can do with that 2 mana? Hell yeah, there is. I can tap it sideways and I can play another spell. This one hit the battlefield. We didn't play it before combat because it was going to be summoning sick anyway. So it's a good idea to play your creature in the second main phase because you have more information than you did before combat. So if our opponent did have something and he was like, oh, I want to kill that spell, I want to get rid of that spell, cool. But they might have changed their mind if they knew we had a better card waiting in the wings. All right. Then we're going to move to end step and keep going turn by turn by turn by turn by turn, eventually getting to a place like this, right? We've played a bunch of spells. We've made a bunch of lands. We're tapping those lands for mana. We're hitting our opponents. Cool. We're also feeding our graveyard, right? So again, zone-wise, our creatures go up top. Our lands go down here. Other spells go over here. And our library is unused cards. And our graveyard is used cards. Our hand is the things we have access to. So remember how I said it was 2 cards, but then I showed you the zone? Clearly there's more than 2 cards. Clearly there's more than 2 types of cards. So we're gonna dig in a little bit more into spells because there are different kinds of spells as shown here, right? I called something creatures. We haven't talked about creatures yet. What the hell's a creature? I'm so glad that you asked. So spells come in essentially 2 flavors, permanents and non-permanents. Permanents stick around on the battlefield when they are played, whereas non-permanents are single use. You use them and they go straight to their graveyard. So they do a thing, but they don't stick around. They go into the graveyard. There are, if any of you actually nerds are here still, yes, there are more types of spells than the 5 I'm showing. I am showing you just the 5 most prevalent, popular, the things you're gonna see every single game, regardless of what you are playing, regardless of the type of magic you're playing or the colors of any of it. You're gonna see these spells. You are going to see these spells. I defy you to not see these spells. But understand that as you keep playing, you're gonna be introduced to more and more different types of spells, like planeswalkers and battles and other things. Those are the 2 that come to mind. But they're not relevant because, again, I'm giving you enough to be dangerous with. You don't need to know everything. You need to know enough to be able to sit down at a table and kind of figure it out. So let's talk about creatures. We're going to move from left to right, going through the permanents and then the non-permanents. So creatures, these are guys. These are guys that can attack and can block. This is primarily the way that you are going to defeat your opponent. More than likely, especially when you are new. We're going to get into reading the cards more specifically, but know that creatures are the things that can attack and block. That is their primary function, is to attack, so you best be attacking. You best be attacking or blocking with your creatures. That is their purpose. Listen, we're all scared of dying, but at some point, your creature's got to die for the greater good of the game. Enchantments. Enchantments are, think of them like status effects or like boosts or buffs. They hit the battlefield and they stick around and give you a persistent effect. Whereas artifacts are objects that you need to use. You can use them multiple times usually, but they need to be used. You probably have to pay resources, mana to use them, even though they're already out on the battlefield. Whereas enchantments are just sort of persistent effects. Then when it comes to non-permanents, we have instants and sorceries. The difference between instants and sorceries is when you can play them. So I said you could cast spells on your main phases, right? That's why I said you can cast spells on your main phases. Well, instants can actually be cast on anytime. On any time. You can cast them on your opponent's turn. You can cast them during combat. They have a lot of utility. They are very cool. They give you flexibility in your game plan. So really, an instant is the thing that kind of gets around timing restrictions of when you can play things. For the most part, though, you are going to play spells on your first or second main phase. Are you lost? Are you confused? I hope not. Remember this, there are 2 types of spells. There are lands, there are spells. Sorry, there's 2 types of cards. Lands and spells. Lands are a resource. We can use them to make mana. Our mana is used to play our spells, and our spells have different timing on them, but they will help us defeat our foes, our enemies. All right, we talked about spell types. Now we're gonna talk about reading the card, because that's how we're gonna know what type of spell it is. Starting at the top left, Baleful Strix. This card is called Baleful Strix. This is the name of the card. Two cards that have the same name are going to be the same card. They might look slightly different because they'll come from different sets maybe. One is like from 1995, one is from 2001, one is from this year. They might look different, but it's going to be the same exact card. On the right is how much it costs. So we've got the name, which just is a unique identifier. And then we have how much that thing costs, how much mana and what types do we need to get this thing onto the battlefield? Well, to use it, right? To use it. Then we have our type line. Our type line here tells us what type of spell it is. This one is an artifact creature. I just told you that we have creatures and we have artifacts. Well, you can see here that we have artifact creatures. Wow, we can mash them together. Very cool. We also have this symbol here. This is going to be the rarity as well as the set. So they have a different symbol, a different icon for different sets that come out. And this really just denotes, it has different restrictions for different formats, which we'll get into a little bit. But basically, the icon functionally has nothing to do with the card, but the rarity is good to note. Orange is going to be mythic. Mythic is the best. Gold is going to be rare. Silver is uncommon, and black is common. Generally speaking, mythics are going to be better than commons, right? They're going to do more. This is not always the case, but generally speaking, the rarer the thing is, the more valued it is, the more stuff it can do. Again, not always. So that type line, we can think of this stuff as above the fold and below the fold. Above the fold is some context, some information. It's sort of like the nutritional facts, right? A little bit. But the rules are what it can actually do. So the rules text, when we say reading the card explains the card, this is what we mean. We are talking about the rules text. This is how you know what the thing does. We've got what it is on the top and what it does on the bottom. Looking a little closer at that type line, you can see that we have divided this into super type, type, and subtype. Not everything has a super type, not everything has a subtype, but know that those things exist and can have different sort of like rules, interactions with them. But everything will have a type. So the type of spell this is a creature. That's its primary type. Yeah, it says artifact creature, but really it's a creature. But it is also an artifact, which is cool. This bird, this artifact creature hyphen bird, might have some important things to note, which, hey, we can look at in the rules text. So above the fold gives us context, below the fold it tells us what it does. So in 1, this is the rules. This non-italic text above this line is functionally going to be the rules. The rules tells us what the card does. This number 2, flavor. We call this flavor text. It has no mechanical value to the game. It just gives us a little bit, it spices it up. It's the flavor of life. It gives us something cool to read or look at when we get bored. It builds out the world. So this has nothing to do with the game, nor does the image, really. This is just for us. This is to enhance our experience. Very cool. So rules are the important part to look at. Within the rules, you might have something. We're looking at 1A, keywords. Keywords are pieces of the rule text that have additional rules that are not on the card. They are so prevalent, though, that they have become intuitive. So you have to remember or roughly know what keywords do. just like you have to roughly know what a creature does and that a creature has summoning sickness. Those are the kinds of things that we want to plant in your brain of keywords. I believe there are, at last count, 60 unique keywords in Magic. I say very confidently, and you can tell by the tone of my voice. There might be hundreds. I don't know. Anyway, the important ones will be very intuitive. And then each set generally has a new like mechanic introduced, and those keywords will come with brackets after them that explain a little bit more as a reminder what that thing does. So this bird has flying. Remember how I said that type line generally will tell us some more information? Well, we know that birds in life tend to fly, right? I mean, except penguins. Do penguins fly? We don't need to talk about it. Stay on topic, choogs. So this bird has flying, which is cool. Flying has implications in combat. Flying means that we are up in the sky. We can fly over the heads of our enemies. So this creature can only be blocked by other creatures with flying, other things up in the sky, or things with reach. So things that are really, really tall, or have a bow and arrow, you know? They can shoot me out of the sky if they have reach. Death touch means that if I touch it, I die. If you touch it, it dies. Cool. Those are fairly self-explanatory, especially when you get more familiar with combat. You're not gonna have to ask, okay, who can block a flyer? You're gonna be able to kind of know, okay, yeah, this goes over the top of their heads. Number 3 is what I'm calling the stat block or a stat line. For creatures, we have 2 numbers. We have 1 and 1. The first number is going to be the power of this creature. How much damage does it deal? And the second number is the toughness. How much damage can it take before it dies? So this is relevant when we go to a combat. We are attacking for 1. If they have a blocker that has anything 1 and above, we will die when we get blocked. But we would also do 1 damage to their blocking creature. So 2 1/1s who attack and then get blocked, they're both gonna die. Even if we attacked with this and we were blocked by something like a 12/12, something huge, the world's biggest tree or something. Dinosaur, I'll say dinosaur. Even though we are a 1/1, that extra 12 damage doesn't go anywhere. The creature takes it all. It just dies when it gets below 0, but it can still take more. But that big 12/12 is still gonna die because we have death touch. So that, again, we're gonna learn more as we keep playing with the cards. But the important thing to note is we are looking at the rules text, the stuff not in italics, to understand what the card does. All right, speaking of rules text, we gotta look at synergy. So a lot of this game, especially in Jumpstart, which is why I have the synergy call out here, a lot of the stuff is based around similar cards or cards that benefit each other. And we call this synergy. So when we're looking at a card, we want things that work together and not stuff that works against each other. So for this example, we'll take a look at this card. This card is an enchantment creature, hag, just like me, for real, for real. She's an enchantment creature and she costs 4 mana to get out onto the battlefield. So we can see here that we can have 3, any color. Any color of mana can be spent for these 3, but we have to use a black for this one. So 4 mana total, 1 black and 3 a whatever. And her rules say whenever an opponent draws a card, Fate Unraveler deals 1 damage to that player. Oof. Something important to know, lands are very important to play the game. Card draw is incredibly strong in this game. It's really important that you have card advantage. So anything that lets you draw a card is really good for you. Anything that lets your opponent draw a card is actually really bad for you. So under normal circumstances, we would not like it when our opponent draws a card, but now we're getting some value. Ooh, when they are drawing a card, now they're getting hurt. And this will stick around as long as this is on the battlefield. So this will keep happening. Now, if we have Fate Unraveler and Underworld Dreams out, Underworld Dreams is an enchantment that costs 3 black. So we have to have all 3 of those mana that are tapping be black. We cannot use any other color. We have to use black. If we have this out, it says whenever an opponent draws a card, Underworld Dreams deals 1 damage to that player. Okay, so these are like the same exact cards, right? They're like the same exact cards, but they're not because they have different names. That's how we know they're not the same cards, even though they have the same rules. And also their type is different. A creature can attack and block. An enchantment just hangs out. Just hangs out and gives us this effect. So if we have both of these out, our opponent is now taking 2 damage every time they draw. So we are stacking effects. This is what synergy looks like. Now let's take a look at this instant. Here, I can play this at any time. And it costs 4 mana. Again, 3 of any color, 1 of black. And we've got this text. It says, you may pay 1 and a black rather than pay the spell's mana cost. So I can do it for cheaper? There must be a downside. There is of course a downside. If the 1 and a black was paid, an opponent draws a card, which normally this would be a big drawback for us. We get a cheaper spell, so they get to draw a card. Not very good for us. However, with this synergy, we're dealing 2 damage to them. Might not be so bad. And then also this last line, exile target creature or planeswalker. So we can get rid of something on their board. Planeswalker is another spell type that we have not gone over. But exiling gets something off of the board. So even if we don't do these first 2 lines, right? The you may pay the 1 and a black. If we say, nah, I'd rather play the 3 and a black, not let them draw a card, we're still going to do this last thing, which is exile target creature or planeswalker. So reading the card explains the card. You will see synergy. These synergies stack up. So that is why things get really confusing sometimes, is because you're like, okay, this thing interacts with that thing, interacts with this thing. That's all on your board. Your stuff might also interact with stuff on your opponent's board. So I'm giving you enough to be dangerous with. We're starting with training wheels. You're gonna be fine. You're gonna be fine because remember, we know how to take a turn. We know that we are going to untap, upkeep, draw. Then we are gonna go to our first main phase. We're gonna play a land if we feel inclined, and we can cast spells. We're gonna go to combat. We're gonna beat their faces in. That's what we're gonna do, right? And then we're going to take our second main and play some more spells and play a land if we haven't yet. We know how to play the game. And then the rest of it is sort of just magical. It's just magical. That's where the magic comes in. It's all the in-between spaces. All right. So something cool about Magic is that playing spells, you are, generally speaking, if you play more spells, you should be winning, right? You should be winning. So we want to make sure that we are playing spells at the right time. So that is where you might hear the term, what's your curve? Or the curve. Generally speaking, you're going to want mostly 2 costed spells. Things cost 2. You can have a little bit of things that cost 1 and some that cost 3. But as they start getting more expensive, you're going to want less of them in your deck, because it's going to take you quite a long time to be able to cast those spells. And so they're just going to be dead cards in your hand, which is not going to be very good for you. We want to be sure that we are playing a land every turn, and we are wanting to be able to play at least, we're going to want to play a land each turn, and we're want to be efficient with our mana before we get to our next turn. So we want to hopefully spend all of our mana. That is how we are being mana efficient. That means we are playing the game good, right? Generally speaking, 60% of your deck will be spells and 40% lands, because we really do want to be playing a land every single turn. Every single turn. We don't want to miss playing a land, because land lets us play the game. In Jumpstart, which I talked about, You get all the lands and you get all this stuff. You don't have to build your own decks, but deck building is something that you're gonna eventually want to do when you can get creative. Because remember those 25,000 cards? There are endless combinations and configurations of how you can play Magic. So you can build a deck that is unique to you. There might not be another one like it in all of the world. And it's a good idea to understand when you can play things, when you should play things, but you'll get more used to that later. All right, different ways to play Magic. I know there's a lot on this slide. I know there's a lot on this slide. The simplified formats that you will see, there are more formats. There are a lot of fan formats. So people invent their own ways to play Magic, which is cool. But generally speaking, I would put these into two categories. We have constructed and we have limited. So constructed means that we build the deck before we start playing. Limited means we're building the deck as part of the play experience. So in constructed, there are two popular formats, standard and commander. Standard is played with 2 players. It's a 1v1 format. You have 60 cards in the deck that you bring to the table, and it has certain restrictions. Each of these formats have different restrictions. So this restriction is that you can only have up to 4 copies of a specific card. So each card can only have 4 copies. This does not include lands, but that really cool card that you like, you can only have 4. And then you can also, because of standard, you can only play with specific sets, the most recent sets. If you're on Arena, you can see those really easily. But basically it's, I think it's sets from up to 3 years ago or something. I don't know. I just started playing standard. Commander though, is 4-person. You can play with 3 and you can play with 6, but 4-person commander. This is more of a social game. Standard is very competitive. Commander is not really competitive, but the main differences are 100 cards, and the restrictions are really where it comes into play. So you're going to have 1 legendary creature that is your commander, and that is going to give you additional restrictions on how you build that deck. It'll give you what colors of mana you can put in that deck, as well as you cannot have any duplicate cards. So in standard, you can have up to 4 copies of each card. In commander, no duplicates. It's a singleton. You can only have 1 of each. I recommend, if you are going to start playing commander, just buy a pre-constructed deck. It's called a pre-con. You can find it at your local game store or borrow a friend's. It's a good way to do it. Now, limited. Limited comes in basically 2 flavors, sealed and draft. Sealed, I put 1 player here because you sit down by yourself with 6 packs of Magic cards, and you're going to build a deck that contains 40 or more cards in that deck, and that includes lands. So this is stuff that you will see at your local game store. Pre-release events, when a new set comes out, you're going to go to pre-release. They're going to give you a box. That box is going to have 6 packs in it, and you're going to build a 40-card deck from that sealed pool. And then you're going to go into 1v1 Magic after that. So you're going to play against random opponents there. But really, limited is just you building your own deck with 6 different packs. Draft, however, is you and 7 of your enemies all fighting for the same cards. It's very fun. You're still building a 40-card deck. However, you get 3 packs. You are going to open your first pack, look through it, and you can only take 1 card from that pack. And then you have to pass the stack to the person next to you. So say I'm passing to the right. The person to my left is going to pass their pile to me. So we keep going around and around, passing the stack until we've chosen our cards. So sealed, you have 6 packs, arguably more packs, right? But they might be in any color. So you're not going to use all of the cards in these 6 packs. Whereas in this 3-pack format with 7 of your enemies, unless you're your own greatest enemies, so I guess 8 enemies, this is a table of 8 enemies, you can actually like get rid of the cards you really won't play. So if you know, like me, I usually only play black. I'm probably going to have a deck with black in it. This is a good way to keep passing all of the colors that I don't really like to play because, again, they have a different vibe to them. And then we, after draft, go to a 1v1 format again. And that, in a nutshell, formats simplified. You will find your own format. There is no wrong way to play Magic. People on the internet will tell you there is a wrong way to play Magic. There is not. There is not. Pick one that you like. Try it out. Try different ones. You will get better at Magic overall if you start playing other formats. One of the #1 pieces of advice for people who saying, I want to get better at Commander, people say, go play Standard. Go play Standard. You can play Standard on Magic Arena, and you can play a modified version of Commander, a 2-player version called Brawl, also on Magic the Gathering Arena. So check it out. Yeah, Foundations, Jumpstart, that's what we played in the VOD. Again, if you want to go check out that VOD, it's on my YouTube, under playlists, under Jumpstart 1v1. You can see how Baka did playing with Jumpstart packs. I also use a website, convoke.games, to play with friends online. So I can use my physical cards and I can use my webcam to stream Magic. It's a great platform. If you want to play webcam Magic, definitely check it out. There's also Magic the Gathering Arena. I tried to be concise. I see now, not very concise. I tried. Listen, I tried. If you want a concise version, on magic.wizards.com, up in the top bar, you will see a thing called Play. That thing is called the navigation item. The navigation item says, welcome to Magic the Gathering. You will get a fast-paced What is Magic video that will go over everything I just said in 1 minute. 1 minute. To me, it moves too fast. It slammed me in the face and I was not happy about it. A little further down, you can get a Learn to Play, which I'll show you in a second. But this is also pretty cool. They've got the 5 colors, 5 play styles, endless possibilities. So like I said, I'm black usually. Black, power no matter the cost. Pretty good for a business VTuber, right? Black is where you can find spooky creatures like vampires, demons, and wandering undead. It's also where you'll trade resources, sometimes even your life, in order to destroy the opposition. So that is black. You can kind of read around and be like, okay, what's kind of my vibe? And then, like I said, Arena. On the Learn to Play section, it'll have that same video, and also you can go through sort of like everything I went through in video format here. In simplified video format. They got $1 bajillion. I'm just one person. They got some cool interactive stuff, so you can see here of everything I described, but this one's animated. So maybe it makes more sense to you. I don't know, man. I do like how they also say that summoning stick are sleepy. I'm so sleepy. I'm so sleepy. All right. Well, like and subscribes or whatever. Subscribes. Whatever. Have a good day. Bye, nerds.